Welcome, everyone, to Charts Free webinar series. Today, we welcome Corban Nichols of Piada, and he's going to be speaking about training on a budget.
Great. Thank you, Tara. All right. Hi, everybody. Really excited. So a little bit of a background on this topic, training on a budget. Where this really stemmed from is this breakout session that I was able to facilitate at the Louisville conference in winter of this year. And then we also were able to facilitate it again in Redondo Beach. And so what I've done is I've taken some of the key learnings from this and put it into a webinar format so that everybody has access to it and it can live on in perpetuity. So a little bit about myself. I'm Corban Nichols from Piada Italian Street Food. I'm the Vice President of Restaurant Excellence. And this whole session really came about from some of the experiences that I've had in my life that we'll talk through and I'll fill you in on. But realistically, it's really been about how can you do something when we're up against a budget? And I think that that's something that we all face day in and day out is that we are always one of the first items to be cut when it comes to the bottom line. And we're also one of the last ones to be added to. And we're always having to make a case. And sometimes making your use case really starts with exactly where you are. So this session of training on a budget was also co-created by Matt Brunk and Sam Warbeck from Training Simplified. They were by co-facilitators at both conferences as well. So just wanted to make sure that I gave them some recognition because you'll see their face a little bit later on in one of the examples that we use. So when we're talking about training on a budget and this idea of what we're going to speak through today, I really want to get into the why about what we're going to talk about before we get into what we're going to talk about. Training is such a broad, vast spectrum that when we sent out the information on this webinar, we really put in it's improving your scripts, snips, and clips. And we're going to focus on those key pieces. And the why behind all of this when it comes to the data is that people touch their phones 144 times per day on average. All of this data and all of this analytics actually comes from research from Apple specifically. Also, people are on their phones for 4 hours and 25 minutes per day. That's on average. So if you think about the amount of time that we spend at the office working or in the field, wherever it may be, people we're not just competing with what's happening in our restaurants or our hotels or our place of work. We're also competing with everything, everywhere, all at once, all the time. And so when you think about how much people are on their phones, you have to start really thinking about why they're on their phones and what is coming through to them that they are so passionate about. And so when we look at the daily social media average usage for 18 to 25-year-olds, 186 minutes a day is spent on their social media platforms of choice. And so many times in our industries, we tend to skew what we think over towards this young generation that we're bringing on and that we're hiring. But I want us to be crystal clear about something. This isn't just a generational piece or aspect. This is also very high amount when we get into the daily social media usage for 65 plus year olds, 102 minutes a day. So it's not just the young generation or the new generation that we're bringing in, it's also the older generation, how much time they're spending on social media. And so why do I keep bringing up social media when I'm talking about a training on a budget webinar? And the real reason for this is when we think about the content that people are taking in, what we are actively competing against all the time. We're not competing anymore just against notepads and pens and papers or flip charts or whatever the case is. We're competing against their phones. We're competing against the content that they're addicted to, that I'm addicted to, that many of us we say we're going to quit and then we find ourselves finding our way back into the platform somehow, some way. And what we can do is we can really take this and we can harness it down into this understanding that 72% of consumers prefer video over text when they're learning about a product or a service. If you've seen the change in the guard when it comes to things like TikTok and it being a complete video based piece that's so addictive and so people are just tapped into at all times versus what social media used to be. We understand that this concept of video is really what stands out to everybody. This is what rings true to how people like to learn about a product or a service. And this doesn't just stop at the door when we go into our establishments, when we go into our restaurants. This 72% of people prefer video over text when they're learning about your LTO, when they're learning about your hospitality training, when they're learning about your brand culture, when they're learning about whatever it is that you're bringing them. 72% of consumers prefer video over text. And so, really, when we think about this, we have to take this concept of video. And my summation is that we need to meet them where they are. We need to meet our team where they are. If 72% prefer it this way, how can we optimize our training to have video? Now, this is where it starts to get into the place of not everybody has a full scale giant budget to be able to do these things. So, for those of you that were coming to figure out how to improve your ops manual on a budget, this might not be super helpful for what you initially came for. But I hope that you leave after you're done watching this with some understanding of ways and practical ways that you can enhance the training that you may already have in a simple way that's approachable, that we'll dive into when it comes to scripts, snips, and clips, starting from the low, low cost of free 99, free 99. That's my little play on words there, all the way up to maybe a more extended budget. And so we're actually going to get a little bit interactive today. I'm going to actually show you some different pieces of equipment and technology that you may be able to use that can help you start where you are today with whatever budget you have. So with that being said, we want to meet our teams where they are. So where is the where? Well, when we're talking about video, there's a couple different places that you can use this. You can embed it in your e-learning. You can have, like I use Rise for the majority of my courses of what it is that I'm building. When I'm building out modules and trainings, I'm using Rise. And through that, yeah, there's always the need for text, but how can you supplement video into that experience as well? Or specifically a direct upload like the one that you see here. What we did at Piada is we realized, why are we filming recipe videos in an old-fashioned way? Why don't we do it in a way that actually looks familiar to the content that our team members are craving, where they're going everywhere else? How do we make it feel like it's TikTok, whether that's by filming it in portrait mode, putting in subtitles, putting in music, whatever the case is in the background? How do we really take something as simple as a recipe video, and maybe it's a direct upload, but how can we make it very quick, snappy, choppy to give our teams more of a sense of what it is that they would be seeking for or seeking outside of just our LMS? So that's kind of the where, right? We know the why. We went through all the statistics. We talked about the where. Let's really dive into the how specific. So we're going to go into three separate parts from here moving forward. When we talk about the how, what I want to talk about first is scripting simplified. So when you're talking about a video and writing a video or writing a script for a video that you want to film and show and have hosted on your learning management system or something that you can send out to others, we think about this and we tend to overcomplicate this. We feel like the script really needs to be something that's super beefed up and that we're pouring everything into. And a lot of times what we end up doing is or what I've seen people do, I don't want to speak for everybody here on the webinar today, but what we see people do is they go into ChatGPT or some form of AI and they feed in all the bullet points of what they're looking to do. And they say, write me a script, and it spits them out a script. And so they edit that up and they're good to go. But I want to simplify it. I want to actually make it way easier than that. Because when we think about the content that our teams are going and watching, it's very natural. It's very engaging. There's different styles of content that you can go to. So when we're talking about the video, I want to cycle back to the fact that the video is a supplement for your training. The video can be training, as the recipe video showed there, but you still have to have a recipe card if you're a restaurant. You still have to have an ops manual. You can have video pieces that back up and give examples of some of that. So let's talk about scripting simplified. So what we did is we created a 5-step process to writing a quick script when it comes to a 60-second video. You do not need your videos to be 5 to 10 minutes long. I already don't like that this webinar is going to be 30 minutes long because I feel like we're going to have people drop off by the end and just say, yeah, I'll go check it out later. As we create content that we want to be craveable, we always get into this concept of micro learning, but I really think that it's just about meeting them where they are and giving them content that is digestible, easy to take in, but also allows them to continue to move on. People don't like just sticking in one spot on a form of training. They want to be able to continue and feel like they're moving it along forward and forward. So as we dive into this, we're going to split it into the 5 parts for scripting simplified: the intro, the why of what you're teaching, the steps, an example, and a recap. And I'll give you some tips and tricks along the way with this as well. So for the intro specifically, well, what are we teaching? So let's say the scenario is today we're going to be talking about how to greet a guest at the register. We'll look at it from the restaurant perspective, maybe a fast casual or a fast food location QSR. The situation is we want to have that we're talking to how to greet a guest at the register. Great. Now, here's what I would say. I would say what you probably don't want to do is start your video by saying, today we're talking about how to greet a guest at the register. See, the key is don't tell them what you're going to teach them, but do teach them what you're going to teach them. So I always like to look at this intro piece as your opportunity to have a hook. There's no video that grabs your attention right away by telling you what it's going to tell you. They just start telling you. So there's many ways that you can go about this, but if you want to greet a guest at the register and you want to talk about how to do that, you could do it multiple ways. You could show awkward silence by the guest staring at the person and the person staring at the guest, and then them both just kind of like shrug and not know what to do and then dive into it. Or maybe you could have some catchy line, any form of an intro. You could show a bad example, or you could be like, have you ever been somewhere and it was just awkward silence? Yeah, me too. That's awful. So we never want to do that. Here's how we can avoid it. And all of a sudden you're in this video and you've created this hook to get your team actually engaged with the content because they're like, yeah, I have been in that situation before. It's all about expanding the situation and opening it up at the onset to the person that's watching it to create some level of empathy with what it is that they're watching. So don't tell them what you're going to teach them. Just teach them what you're going to teach them. That's what's the most important piece. So after the intro, we want to move into the why. Why does it matter? Well, this is where we give the information. A consistent greeting sets the tone and builds trust right away. Okay, now we can really dive in and talk about that, but it doesn't have to be something that's crazy scripted with a bunch of different items. It can just be as simple as, hey, a consistent greeting sets the tone and builds trust right away. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to give them steps of actually doing it. So we want to give 2 to 3 very clear steps. We don't need this to be a whole bullet, sub bullet, intro bullet, ending bullet, it's too much. We don't need all of that. We just need 2 to 3 clear steps. So that could be something as simple as, well, how do you do something consistently? You do it each time. So it could look like this. Smile and make eye contact and say, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? Or whatever the case is, by giving them 2 to 3 clear, actionable steps. What you've done now is set an expectation of the consistency that will also create clarity and repeatability. And that's what's so important. Then for your video, actually show it. Actually show somebody behind the register saying, hi there, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a full-on, full-blown Martin Scorsese script. If you want to teach them something quick and succinctly and repeatably, do it in a way that's tongue in cheek. We like to call it a little bit of edutainment, where we take the education and we throw in some entertainment and we start to make it fun. Because even if it's hokey, even if it's just the most silly thing, like a home of the good burger, it's something that people might be like, oh, that's really ridiculous, but they'll remember it. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. So we've gone through the intro, or as I like to call it, the hook. We go through and actually talk about what the expectation is. We set the clarity ahead of time. We give the example, and we also want to get into the recap. And this is the final reinforcement. And this is where you just really summarize everything, because a great greeting makes every guest feel seen and welcome. It can be as simple as that. And one of the great parts of being able to do this at a breakout at Chart in Redondo Beach was we really just set the table of, hey, here's what we're going to do. And here's your worksheet of how to do it. We gave them the 5-step process. And then we had some really killer examples come through where people got so creative with what they wanted to train, how they wanted to train it. And everybody actually left with a video that they could use right away. And as you can see there, these were all filmed on people's cell phones. People have cell phones. You have a cell phone right now. I'm at least guessing you do if you're on a webinar clocked right now at 2:20 in the afternoon Eastern Standard. I'm guessing that you have a cell phone in your pocket. And that's what people used when they created these videos that we showed and put together at our Chart Redondo Beach breakout session. And so it doesn't have to be something that's over the top. It doesn't have to be, remember, people that are making online videos right now are doing it with the equipment that they have. Yeah, you can get some lighting, and we're going to get into that next. We're going to talk about how we take from the script into like really looking pro and professional. But ultimately, where I want to challenge you is don't overthink it. And also, don't lose the human element. The most creative piece that you bring to the table is better than anything that AI is going to send to you when it comes to writing a script. Yes, you can come up with some outlines through writing a script through AI or ChatGPT, and I'm not against it. I use it, I really do. But what I'll say is some of the best ideas come from just what would be funny? Like, how would I like to learn? Or what would that look like? Or maybe what would be the most impactful and most powerful way that we could do something? Because the key is that if you don't just start, you're never going to start. So you have to start somewhere. So this script platform, as we handed this out at our breakout session, what we saw was each group the first time through were so worried about writing a script that was going to be 1 minute long, and oh my goodness, what are we going to say, how's it going to look, how's it going to sound? And it took 10 minutes before we had to tell them, hey, you're almost out of time, you got to start filming something right now. And then they got up, they filmed something, we went back, we revised, they did it again, and the second time through was incredible. So don't hesitate just to start. Start somewhere, because when you start, that's when you can really start to refine and hone it in and create something that's really sticky and really catchy that your teams are going to enjoy as a supplement to the training that you're making. So, with that, moving on from scripting simplified into how do we look pro simplified? And more than just look pro, how do we also sound pro? There are so many tools that we have at our disposal. Never has it been easier to be a content creator, but never has it been harder to be a content creator, because you have everybody else that you're up against that's creating content. So, what I would challenge you to think about as we're going through this next piece is I'm going to show you an example that we filmed in Redondo Beach at the last Chart conference. And I'm going to play it for you. And the first part's going to be really tough to hear. And then you're going to see the difference between the start and the finish. It's all one take, it's all an iPhone camera, and it's all in the same place with no additional lighting. There's just going to be one addition that changes the whole perspective of the video. So you might need to turn your volume up just a little bit for this part. I'll be quiet and we'll start the video.
All right, so there's a few elements that you can leverage when you're making good video on your phone. You've got a great camera like this in your pocket, but right now it's kind of like a low angle, so let's fix the angle. You want it to be more like eye level. It's better, right? A little more flattering, doesn't show that double chin. Also, right now, like I'm standing in front of this window. That's no bueno. You don't want to shoot into the light. All you have to do is just fix it and take advantage of this natural light. Look at that, so much better, right? And right now it's using the audio from the camera. I'm gonna fix that. Oh my goodness, look at this. Now, I'm just talking like a normal voice. It sounds great. Get a mic, use a mic. People want to be able to hear you because people will dismiss it if the audio is bad. So, good angle, good camera, good light, good audio, money.
So with that video that we filmed, as you can see, so many times we're like, oh, what about the background? How are things going to look in the background? And so we had this beautiful window with this great scenery of this beach and the palm trees outside. But the problem was is you really couldn't even see what was happening. So if we rewind this video real quick, yeah, it's beautiful outside, but you can't see the focal point of the video. And so what's the point of that? Also, at the very beginning, we were shooting low. We were shooting low up. What this does is it's a very unflattering angle. You want to be more eye level. When you're more eye level, it starts to make you look a little bit thinner, a little bit better. You get rid of that double chin scenario that could be happening, like I probably have right now with my angle. So we boost up the view, and all of a sudden, it just automatically frames the shot better. You don't have to be a pro to make it look pro. All you have to do is think, okay, a top-down approach or a more eye-level approach with the video helps so much. But then when we move and we pan around, that's the same shot, the same camera. The only difference is we're taking advantage of all of that beautiful sunlight that's coming in from that window for free. We didn't have to pay $1 for that sunlight. It was just there that day. And that's what's great. But lastly, it was really challenging to hear Matt at the very beginning of the video. Once Matt picked up one of these mics, like I'm wearing right now, which I'll show you here shortly, it changed everything. You were able to hear, and immediately the buy-in and the quality of the video was completely exponential. This at the end was completely different experience than this at the beginning. And so one of the quick things that you can do to look pro is get the right lighting by having natural light in front of you, or whatever the light that you can to be in front of you. We'll give you some options. Have the right framing where you're up and get rid of that double chin. Have that light coming in at you, and use a solid microphone, which can be many different things, which we'll get through here shortly as well. So that's how you can make your videos look pro. With that, what I want to teach you is different ways that you can go about that. So this is the section that I call lights, camera, transaction, because ultimately everything that I'm about to show you comes at some level of a cost. Some of it you've already paid, so you might be able to take advantage of it. So first and foremost, we're going to get into the lights perspective. So I'm going to show you some different quality of lights, and I'm actually going to switch a camera here shortly too, so I can show you the difference in how some things work and look. So when we talk about looking pro, the lighting, the image, and the cost, right? So from a lighting perspective, you can use sunlight like we just used in that video. And that's free 99. As long as it's sunny out, it is free. You're good to go. Or you can use a ring light. This is actually what I'm using right now. This is the exact ring light in this image that I have shining on me. If I turn this light off, if you can see me and I turn this light off, it completely changes the perspective of how I look. Now I'm kind of washed out. It's very dark. I turn that on. It's much brighter. It's much crisper. It is a little harsh. So that is something to keep in mind as you have these ring lights. You can change how the tone is of the light, or the temperature of the light as well, how the brightness of the light. You can do different styles, different tones, whether it's cool into warm. That is all off of this one ring light that I'm using right now that's on that image right there. Now with that, what I do want to show you, and I'm going to switch to a different camera, I want to show you specifically panel lighting as well. So I'm going to switch to a different camera that I'm going to show you soon. This is called the Insta360 Link 2. This is an AI powered camera. So my view is going to change, and now my camera is right over here. So this is the 4K webcam. You can put it on a tripod like I have it on right now, or you could mount it on top of your laptop or your desktop computer, or whatever the case is. Like, it's got different mounting surfaces that you can use. But this cool thing about this camera is that it's AI powered. So as I move, it's going to move as well. So what I want to take you on is I want to take you along with me here is this tracks. And what I want to do is I want to show you these panel lights that I have. So with these panel lights, these are Lume Cube lights right here. Now these do come with a remote that I was going to use, but then you lose all sense and purpose of the camera kind of tracking with me as I go. But with these Lume Cube lights, these are panel lights. I can change the temperature. I can change how bright or how much power they're using. I can change the tones of it to be cooler or whatnot. And then I also have another one over here. Sometimes you need to use two lights in order to make the biggest difference with what it is that you're doing. So I want to come back over here, camera. Come back over here and find me, camera. Hello. There we go. I don't know. Maybe it'll come find me. Maybe it won't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back right now. This is the fun part about doing something that's live like this. So now I turned off the ring light, but you can see that this image looks so much better right here than it did originally with the ring light that I was using, right? This is completely different now at this point. So it is a really cool experience to be able to have. To be able to show that to you. So these panels look great. So with this, you have the panel lighting. The panels do cost $350 to start with versus the ring light that's $21.99 versus the sunlight that is $3.99. So the thing with these panels is they can be pretty harsh. The lighting can be harsh. And if you're not very technically savvy at dialing them in, you might be very bright, but you might be overexposed. You might be washed out. So there's also the other option of the Lume Cube XL is what I put in here. Comes with a travel bag, but it's a soft diffuser light. And it really softens the light that's coming through these panels. So they sell different diffuser lights, but really what you would be looking for is about the same cost overall at about $350 starting out, where that light is going to come through and it's going to be really soft and subtle while still giving you a well-rounded tone. I do not have one of those lights. I just use these panel lights for pretty much everything that I do when it comes to lighting in all of our videos that we do in-house. I end up using these lights specifically. So we just talked about the lights. We talked a little bit about the camera, but let's dive into the camera a little bit more because there's some cool things here that I really want to be able to display to you and show you. So ultimately, when we talk about cameras and we talk about what this looks like and the cost of it, the first and foremost that you can do is literally your cell phone. So right now I'm on my laptop camera, but if I wanted to switch over to my 15 Pro Max, it's a little bit different. It's not going to track with me here. I can move it around and I can, use this, but a lot of people will just use their camera that they have on their iPhones. You can set up a steady cam, you can get a gimbal, you can do all of these different things that you can mount and host your camera specifically on there. But the beauty of this is being able to be portable. The lenses on the phone have gotten so much better. I mean, this is a 15, they got the 17 coming out. So there's so many different things that you can do with this. I actually had the opportunity to go and travel overseas to do a documentary video for my organization. And on one of the trips when we went over, all I took was my cell phone, a steady cam holder, and then some portable lights and memory cards to be able to record everything through to. There's different ways that you can use your phone. If you have somebody that's skilled in color correction and everything on top of it, there's so many different options that you can do. When you see these movies that they say filmed completely on an iPhone, like I believe it's 28 years later, the zombie movie that was just out, they filmed it all on iPhones using the iPhone lenses, not anything different than just the iPhone 16 that's out right now. So there are so many things that you can do with this camera if you just take the time, study some YouTubes, teach yourself a little bit, or maybe even have somebody that already might work for you that knows what they're doing already, be able to take the reins and teach you a little bit more. So with that, I'm gonna switch it back to my laptop computer here, and we'll go through and talk about the laptop camera specifically. So with the laptop camera, there are many laptops that don't have the best camera in the world. And I understand that. But as you start to get into this new generation of laptop, depending on what you have, it's so easy for you to be able to set something up and use it just like I'm using right now. There's also other options when it comes to the video of ways that of what you can do. You can do on the MacBook Pro, there's something called Center Stage for the newer models, where it will track just like that other camera that I used just a little bit ago, that Insta360. Like, it will actually track and follow you as you're moving from side to side. It'll zoom in on you, it'll switch focus. There are lots of things that you can do. One of the other cool things that you can do is actually use your iPhone and use your either your MacBook or your iPhone. And for those of you that are Google or Android users, I don't know what you all do. I'm sorry, but I'm sure it's probably even better than what the iPhone's got, because that's all my Android friends always say is like, oh, our stuff's way better. But one of the cool things that you can do is say that I wanted to actually show you like a desk view. Like, I can just use my phone to show you a desk view. And now I'm moving it all around. But what it does is it actually just takes and shows from the lens as if it's looking down. So if I needed to show you something that I was doing specifically, you could even use your phone just to do that. You can use your laptop camera to do that as well, if your laptop has that option too. So when it comes to your video, cell phone is great, and you already have one. It's in your pocket. Your laptop is great. You've already got one. That's probably what you're watching this webinar on. The Insta360 link too that I was showing you, that's $199, which, yeah, not everybody has that to be able to spend. But if you're looking to create some content that doesn't really require too much, it just requires you to set something up on a tripod and have it set it and forget it, and then you light, maybe that's within the budget of what it is that you're planning and what you're working with. Now, as you get into more and more, there are other items that you can use, like the training videos that we shoot here at Piada. We invested in a really good camera and a really good lens, the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, and its accessories with different lenses and everything. And that can start to get to where you're getting very pricey for a very good camera. But at the same point in time, you have a lot more control. You have a lot more ability with what it is that you can do. So it's really up to you and what it is that you're looking for. But you don't have to have the huge investment in order to make something happen. You can do it for free right there with whatever is in your pocket. So as we talked about the lights and the camera, I also want to talk about the microphone situation. So right now you're hearing everything of what I'm saying. You're hearing it through my headphones. Now, I want to give you a little bit of an advance warning. When you're dealing with Zoom has a lot of different settings that it can use with all of this. So there is an option to turn on original sound in Zoom, which will give you whatever audio is coming through. It will broadcast that audio completely without a ton of compression or noise cancellation that Zoom automatically does. Zoom is built for situations where you have multiple people talking or background noise, and it tries to filter out all of that. And how it does that is it compresses the audio, so only really what it deems pertinent is coming through. So if I were to try and play a guitar right now, you wouldn't be able to hear it because it thinks of that as background noise. Unless I had original sound on, then you'd be able to hear the guitar come through specifically. So you can do things through your headphones, and the quality is fine. Like, there are a lot of people that film with just headphones on as the audio, and that's great. People don't question it. People don't just look at a video where somebody's wearing headphones and think, well, that's low rent, that's low quality. They're used to seeing it on their platform, so it's okay to be able to do that. Now, what I'm also going to show you is this Rode wireless mic, like the one that we used earlier. So I've got this clipped onto me, and I'm going to change my sound now from my headphones into the wireless that I have here. And so as that comes through, you might not notice a huge change in tone over Zoom just because of the way that the compression works. However, when you do plug it into your iPhone or whatever you are recording through, you will hear a little bit of a change in the tone, a little bit better quality. And what I like about this is if you're actually like interviewing somebody, you can do the whole thing where you're standing there talking into it. hand it off, have them talk into it. So there's so much that you can do. Now, if your training is more of a podcast setup, there's different ways that you can get intricate and involved with a podcast setup. So, like for instance, you can get one of these Shure M7s right here. So I'm going to change to the Shure MB7 Plus. And as you hear this audio come through, the audio now is coming through this instead. You want to be close to it, but not too close so it doesn't overstim and overpop or anything. But as you're recording into a different audio program, if you're doing something that's just a little bit more advanced that you could do, this is going to give you a very great sound quality. You can run it through different channels, different boxes to be able to really have a true audio input. But ultimately, what you're getting from your headphones versus what you're getting from this, depending on how you're editing, depending on how you're capturing, and depending on exactly the way that you're doing. If you're a beginner, you might not need this. You might just need this. That might be it. So don't put yourself into a position where you feel like you have to automatically go to the highest value dollar that's available, because it might not actually serve you any differently. And so as we talk about how do you do this on a budget, when your budget is no budget, just start with where you are. You probably already have headphones. You probably already have a cell phone. You might already have some lavalier mics that you can get from Target or Best Buy. You can get these things anywhere, Amazon, it's easy. But just start with where you are and create content that you would want to watch, because ultimately when you're creating content that you want to watch, you're putting yourself and your audience into a place where you're giving them something that you know is good. At least that's the way that I like to think about it. So from there, we've talked about having the script simplified. We've talked about looking pro simplified. But now let's talk about having fun. So with this, what I want to make sure that is resonating is there are so many different ways that you can have fun with the content that you create. As you see on your screen right now, we have a podcast where I interview here in my office. We changed my office into this training studio. And I have a podcast called Chat CEO, where I interview my CEO, Lance Uhas, once a quarter. And he gives shout outs, updates about the business, where we're at. And people start tuning into this long form podcast because they're looking to see if they're going to get a shout out, which is really cool. You can also see some examples of web conference hosting videos like Matt and Sam from Training Simplified use, where you see they're just in their studios talking. They're well lit, eye level camera, really good. And then you also have Diana Melger, who is with Chart. She started her own podcast series, and so she's created this whole setup in her garage, exactly where she is. And I don't know how much she spent on hers. I know Matt and Sam, it's just their backgrounds. It's just what they have are behind them. For me, in building this office, it used to just be white walls, and I went out and I got this sound paneling from Costco that I found. And so what it did was it helped soundproof my office, because we have very hollow walls and it's very easy to hear what's going on in our support center. And then I just added some accent lighting. I added a neon sign that we had from a previous opening. I got some shelves in, and then I just started putting some knickknacks up and really putting some decoration behind it. But it really everything that you see on the screen and behind me, everything was for under $1,500 all in for my training studio setup that I use for multiple different podcasts and trainings that we do for our organization. And so then with that also, you can get the Canon like you see here. So this is our setup where we have the tripod when I'm filming one of my Lee Like Lasso podcasts or one of our training podcasts that I'm doing. I have the camera set up on this tripod directly in front of me. So if that's literally what it would look like if I was filming right now, what I would be seeing. And you're looking at that glass shield and you're like, well, what is that glass shield in front of it? Wouldn't that cause a reflection? Well, actually what that is that's a teleprompter. So I can write all of my scripts out ahead of time, and I can put my iPad in the teleprompter screen, and it actually reflects everything on my script. So I'm looking directly into the lens while I'm filming. And so you can use this teleprompter app without the whole screen kit and caboodle, if you will. you can download the app for free 99, plug in your scripts, and you can use it so you're looking directly and reading directly off your prompter as you're recording a video. It might look a little weird or funky if you're not looking directly at the camera, but it's a good thing to be able to have and be aware of what is available out there for you. Now, lastly, when we're talking about having fun, I want to use some examples of some videos that we've done in the past, specifically with Chipotle. And I've got some other videos that I have available for what we did with Piada as well. But when I was working at Chipotle, we had National Avocado Day. And Chipotle guac is really important. It's really popular. And so as we were going through, we realized like, let's get the executive chef, and I'm going to interview the executive chef all about our avocados, where they come from, seasonality, all of this. And it was a good video, but it was not the best National Avocado Day video that we did. Actually, the best National Avocado Video Day that we did was using a Snapchat filter and filming through Snapchat. And I'm going to show you a clip of that video that went bonkers at Chipotle.
Hey Chipotle, it's your favorite ingredient, that's me, avocado. I'm here to remind you of the greatest day of the year, celebrating me and my family of other avocados, National Avocado Day, this Saturday, July 31st. To celebrate this important holiday, Chipotle is offering guests a free topping or side of guac with their entree. This is an exclusively digital offer, that's why it's important to get the word out ahead of time. Get it out. Hey, here's a fun fact. Avocados are in the same family as
absolutely ridiculous, right? But this was so sticky and it was so simple and it was so easy. And it's not great quality. Like if you look at it, like it's still images using a Snapchat filter, but it was so creative and outside of the box that it really resonated with people in a completely different way than a very well-produced item. Another way that you can have fun is we take our what we call our 3-Minute Thursdays that you see on the screen right now with our executive chef, and we film these with him in our test kitchen where he's talking about different products or different things that we have and the nuances behind them. And so for 3 minutes weekly, Chef Matt
we've got our beautifully pounded and marinated chicken here. And here is a perfect example of something that wasn't done correctly. And as you can see, the tenderloins aren't really pounded at all, and there's not quite enough buttermilk on it, although they do look fresh and delicious. So we're gonna go ahead and put those in.
And so he goes through this whole process every week of showing some nuances of why it's so important to follow the recipe to the T of how we do it. So that's an example of that. What we've also done in my last example that I have is a documentary that we did with our CEO about the history of Piada. And we did a 3-part documentary all about his journey, what the history was in order to create a connection with our teams. And this is another way that video is so powerful when it comes to really resonating with how you train your teams on things that you may not have thought of before.
Everybody loves Italian. Yeah, Bravo and Brio was sold. You know, it was time. We had talked about fast casual wasn't, and since 2006 was just really, I think the only real brands were Chipotle and Panera.
All right, so I'd be happy to show you that whole video, but it would take too long. We got to get into questions and answers here. But ultimately, what I want to leave you with is this idea and this understanding that ultimately what you don't have to worry about is it being perfect. Nothing that you see online right now that your teams are consuming is perfect. It's just there. It's just present. So don't overcomplicate it. Start where you are. And the more you're able to prove a use case, the more your budget's going to grow, the more you're going to be able to do with it. Because when you show what you're capable of doing and how you can spike engagement numbers immediately with your teams already, what a better way to be able to prove your use case for a greater budget or a greater level of influence than by starting where you are. So with that, want to switch it over to Q&A. But thank you all so much for attending. Really, really happy that we had so many people here learning how to do better training on a budget.
Thank you so much, Corban. The first question we have is, how do you record using a Snapchat filter? Do you post the video in Snapchat and then export it?
Yeah, that's one way that you can easily do it. There's so many filters, everything that's available. Snapchat, I haven't used Snapchat in many, many years now. I honestly didn't even know Snapchat still existed until like about a month ago. But Instagram has a ton of filters now. There's just different things that you can do. What I would say is if you can find ways to find the trends, great. This is another place that AI is so great. And whereas I said for AI earlier, don't lose the humanity in your scripts of what you think would be fun. Rather, when you have the question of how that you could do something, that's when I really lean into AI. And so while I can't really answer specifically that question to the T right now, I do believe it's as simple as just exporting it or doing a screen record, really easy. But you can always go to AI, ChatGPT, or somewhere and say, hey, I want to do XYZ. What are the best ways in order to do that? This is the equipment that I'm using, and it'll give you the full use case of how to do it.
Okay. Second question is, how do you have you managed to show the ROI to your employer in order to increase your budget?
Oh, that's great. How do I show the ROI? So I really changed my mentality a while back away from compliance to engagement levels. Um, Compliance is very important, obviously, but I consider it a four-letter word in the workplace because it means that people have to take something in order to check a box. And we were doing a restaurant visit out in Indiana, and we walked into the restaurant, and the manager on duty was taking the onboarding training for their new hire while their new hire was off on their own doing a recipe incorrectly without anybody shoulder to shoulder training them. So instead of actually setting somebody up for success, they were just finding ways around the issue. But if I look at compliance on the back end, right, that shows as checked, that shows as done. So once we started really leaning into engagement numbers, time spent watching, what are the key points? When are people sharing things back and sharing them around? Our LMS, we use PlayerLink. We're able to really see how many clicks an individual video gets, how long people spend in it. That's really what started to change the mentality of how we display and how we show engagement levels. And through that, we just started where we were. We started doing things for super cheap, super quick, super dirty. And when people started watching them, it really gave us that use case to say, hey, this is working. How can I get an extra 2,500 in the budget? How can I get something extra or additional? How can I get these extra lights? And asking for it by being able to have some level of engagement numbers for me, it showed. But then also soliciting the feedback in the field. What are they thinking? How do they use it in their chef meetings? How do they use it in their manager meetings? What does that look like? How is it really trickling down? Because that's what's going to give you the best sound bites to be able to take back.
Okay. The Alyssa Bunkley had said to everyone for Snapchat, you can record the video on the app and save. Then you can export the video on your phone and upload to a Google Drive or where you share your content. So I just
Perfect. Just that simple. Thank you, Alyssa, for being the young in the conversation today with Snapchat.
Okay. Next question is, what do you use to edit videos on a budget?
There's so many things that you can use. You can use the software that's already on your phone. Depending on what you have on your laptop or your computer, you might already have editing software that you're unaware of. The Adobe suite is great for it. I really do like Adobe Premiere, Adobe Rush, which I think they're discontinuing Adobe Rush, unfortunately, soon. But that was actually an app that I learned how to use at Chart in Austin in 2022 in a breakout session. There was a whole breakout session that was all about recording recipe videos and editing them on your phone or your iPad. And that was how I learned. It was very simple. It was very user friendly. But a lot of these things, if you just enroll in YouTube University, you'll be able to find out so many things that maybe you didn't know before. Canva online has editing software that you can utilize as well to make videos.
Okay, and the last question I have, unless any more come in, are I have the Hohem lavalier mics and have trouble getting them to connect to my MacBook. Are the Rode mics better for this? Do you need a dongle or connect directly?
No, I connect directly. So what I have is it's a USB-C that immediately plugs in. So this is what it looks like right here. That plugs in, it automatically syncs and connects to this that goes into the charging case that you just charge the case. It hosts the lav mic, everything right there. So it makes sure that everything's already powered up, good to go. And then you just plug into your laptop or your phone, depending on making sure you have the right connection. If you're using a Lightning, you'll need an adapter for that, but it's super easy.
Okay, and that's all. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Corban, very much. This was very, very fun.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.